Okay, brilliant. There we go. Alrighty. So let me know if you can see this. I'd love to know if you can, if everyone can see this on your screens. So welcome to our session. My name's Ellen. I'm a naturopath, nutritionist, and herbalist. And I'm super excited tonight to be talking to you about managing your gut health naturally. Tonight we will be talking, all about functions of the gut. We'll be talking about common symptoms of gut imbalance. We'll be talking about the gut-brain connection. We'll be talking about investigation methods, so how you can actually find out what's going on with your gut health. We'll be talking about foods for gut healing, and then we'll be going through Q&A like I said before. So super exciting. So a little bit about me. I'll introduce myself first. So I help people with a range of lots of different health issues, mainly focusing on gut problems, hormone imbalances, autoimmune conditions. So that can range from anything from Hashimoto's, thyroid, to rheumatoid arthritis, to Crohn's, to fibromyalgia, all of these different autoimmune conditions in the body. Adrenal fatigue, of course, when we're looking at that busy lifestyle, we'll talk about that and how that has a really big impact with your gut health as well. Insomnia, sleep issues, anxiety, depression, of course, as well, all related in. Benefits of seeing a naturopath. So if you haven't seen a naturopath before, I would love to know that as well, or what your experience has been before. I can see a few of my clients on the call tonight, which is really great. That's one thing that I really encourage all of my clients to do, is to continue educating yourself. And even in our sessions, it's not that I would just be prescribing something and then say, see you in a month's time. It's more about learning, education, being able to be empowered, understanding what's actually going on in your body as well. So essentially, as a naturopath, that is what I do. So we treat the body holistically as an individual. There's probably not many times that I would have prescribed the exact same formulation of herbs or the exact same, sequence of nutrients to two different people. The amounts of testing that I do in terms of stool testing, hormone testing, all of these things really does vary. And I like to keep that really specific for the person, because there's no point, in my opinion, of doing treatment if it's not individualized. So if you don't know what's going on with that person at a cellular level or at that root cause level, it can be more cost effective and time effective, definitely, to be utilizing functional testing. So tonight we'll be talking a bit about stool testing, and I'll also be mentioning and running you through a little bit about adrenal testing, because there's such a close link between your gut and your brain, and how that can be triggered is through the vagus nerve and through your cortisol levels as well. So we'll be talking about that. As a naturopath, I use natural treatments, which means we're utilizing herbs and nutrients. So this is therapeutic grade, TGA registered herbs and nutrients. So it's all therapeutic levels in the body. I utilize evidence-based treatment as well. So even though it is natural and comes from herbs and plants, there's active constituents in those herbs that have actually so many studies behind them to tell us exactly the types of mechanisms and the pathways that they're working on actually in the body. And then, of course, integrative support is a really big part of my treatment. So when you see me, it's not just me. Usually we've got a GP on board. Some people see a psychologist alongside, counselor. We might integrate physios, chiros, kinesiologists, Reiki, whatever it might be, whatever the person needs. Is what I like to use with my clients. So it's more about having that team around you and having that support network. Because as a naturopath, there's, definitely things that I shine in helping my clients. But then, of course, there's things that we can use from other practitioners that also have a really great effect. Okay, let's start. So, interesting facts about gut health. So, I find this quite interesting to start off with because a lot of people don't actually realize how important your gut health is. So, I more so think of your gut kind of like the tree roots, and then everything comes from that. So, if we're feeding the tree roots the right thing, it's got the right soil in there, then everything else in the tree is generally going to be healthy. So, did you know that there's actually 100 trillion bacteria in and on your body? And a really large percentage of that is actually in your large intestine, which is what we'll be talking about tonight. Your bacterial cells outnumber your human cells 10 to 1. So, you're actually a really large percentage just made up of bacteria, which is kind of weird when you think about it. And there's actually over 10,000 different species of bacteria living in your body. So I think that that's a pretty those facts are really interesting to put things in perspective of how important these types of bacteria are in your body, and the fact that most of them live in your large intestine, which is what we're talking about mostly tonight, is super important to think about. So if there's something going on with your gut bacteria, then most likely that's going to be affecting a lot of other areas of your body. Oh, wrong way. So, what affects gut bacteria? So, did you know that the average child is prescribed antibiotics about 10 to 20 times by the time that they're 18? So, is that surprising to you? It actually is a bit surprising to me. I see a lot of clients, pretty often getting prescribed antibiotics, but before the age of 18, 10 to 20 times is quite a lot. And so we'll talk about actually things that affect the gut bacteria, and what actually, can kill off the good bacteria in the meantime. So, antibiotics, of course, they are essential sometimes when we need to be using them, when there's essentially no other option. But I think that they do get overprescribed quite a lot. And this can be a problem because antibiotic use, especially even just one dose of antibiotics, really, can wipe out a lot of your good bacteria in your gut. So it can wipe out a lot of the bad stuff if there's some kind of bad bacterial overgrowth, parasite, candida, or yeast happening. It can remove some of that, but it's also wiping out all of that good stuff. And your good bacteria is so important for your immune system. So about 70 to 80% of your immune system actually lives in the gut. So if we're going and wiping out all of that good bacteria, it can really, really be affecting what's happening in your whole immune system. And then that can lead to things like fruit intolerances, autoimmune conditions, all of these things we'll dive into a little bit more soon. So what else affects the gut bacteria? Things like when we're looking at foods, so specifically things like sugars, alcohol, caffeine can affect the gut bacteria. When we're looking at more lifestyle things, we're thinking about stress, we're thinking about antibiotics, other types of medications that people take day to day. Long-term use of medication, especially, whatever type it is, because essentially that can really be affecting what's happening with your good bacteria. Another analogy that I like is your gut is kind of like a fish tank. So you're not just going to go and put a new fish into the old tank, right? So we really want to be looking at how are we going to support removing whatever it is in that fish tank that's causing the imbalances before we go and put the new fish, or when we're thinking about it, the new bacteria, the good bacteria. So that's why when we're utilizing, when we're doing gut work, we really need to do the timing of things right. And sometimes we might not use really high dose probiotics right at the start of treatment because we need to work on rebalancing the gut first. So definitely looking at, all of these types of things like medications, stress, different types of foods can affect your good bacteria as well. And of course, everyone's different. So you might have friends who are celiac and react really strongly to gluten, but you don't specifically. You might have friends who react really strongly to dairy or to nightshades or to tomato or to bananas or random foods. So there's actually lots of different types of groups of foods that you might not think are totally related, but they can be in the same type of family, even though it really doesn't seem like it. So when we're looking at the gut bacteria, we really need to think outside of the box as to what other things could really be affecting your gut health. And this can even be a good thing for you to do if you've got a piece of paper and a pen in front of you, or if you don't, just go grab one. Even if you're on the couch in your PJs, go grab a paper and pen. And this is just a good time to, just start workshopping some things with yourself and just writing a list of things that you think could be affecting your gut bacteria. So when we're looking at this, so even other types of foods, if you react to different foods, write them down. If you're stressed, a lot of people find that, I get really bloated when I'm stressed at work, or I get really nauseous when I haven't eaten in a long time, or I get reflux when I've had a really long day or when I haven't slept at nighttime, or vice versa. The reflux is keeping me awake and then I can't sleep. So write down these things. Sometimes, you live with those symptoms every day that you get to the point where you just think it's normal. And, this is a really important thing to do, is to check back in with yourself to be able to figure out, okay, where is my set point? Where am I actually sitting at the moment to, be able to see what's going on with my health. So write down some things, what you think might be affecting your gut health. And then we'll be able to go from there. So it's just a really good starting point as well. Okay, next, so functions of the gut. So let's talk about, what does the gut actually do? So your digestive tract, so this is specifically talking about the large intestine. So we have the small intestine, which comes first, and then that goes down into the large bowel. And so we'll be talking about the little valve that goes in between the small and the large bowel. So this is called the ileocecal valve, in between the small bowel and the large bowel. Small intestine, large intestine, in between is the ileocecal valve. So remember that word for later, because we're going to be talking about how you can start to trigger it and manipulate it at home. Sounds weird, but we'll be able to use some little techniques to be able to start to stimulate that. And it's really great for getting your gut working a lot better. So anyway, talking about the large intestine. So functions of large intestine: absorbing your nutrients from your food. So this is also just a reminder that you can essentially get all of the nutrients that your body needs from the food that you eat. So I think that a lot of people, we can become so reliant on supplements and medications and superfoods and all of these things, that we forget just going back to basics and remembering that these nutrients can come from your food. If you're having good, nutritious food and you have good gut health, you can absorb a lot of it from your food. You can be getting your iron and your zinc and your B12 and your calcium and all of this from your food. So that's the goal. That's the end goal with my clients, is that at the start, if someone has low iron or B12, we might have to use a supplement to be able to start to get that increased and get those levels where they need to be. And then we can continue with food as medicine. So that's a really beautiful way to think about it, is using food as medicine. 80% of your immune system is in the gut. So I talked about that before. So your immune system is run by all of those little good bugs in your large intestine. So, you know, probiotics at the store with the little bugs, you know, running around and everything. So things like lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, they're essentially the little families, and then we've got all the little subtypes, all the species of the bacteria. And these things can help with different parts of your immune system. So sometimes they're helping to fight off bad guys, sometimes they're helping to protect your skin and help your skin to be able to form that layer. So you actually have bacteria all over your skin, which is why when people use things like topical steroid cream or antibiotic cream or anything like this, it can really affect the bacteria actually on the skin, even personal products. So that's something that I like to talk about with my clients a lot too, is all of your personal care products like your moisturizers, perfumes, anything like this is important to go natural and the least amount of chemicals, is no chemicals, the most minimal as possible, because anything that you put on your skin is essentially affecting what's going on with your bacteria levels, because a lot of that bacteria lives on the skin. Next one, 90% of your serotonin is made in the gut. So serotonin, if you don't know, is also known as your happy hormone. So 90% of that made in the gut. So if you've ever felt those anxious butterflies, or if you've ever been going through low mood or depression and you feel like your appetite is so high, or it's the total opposite and you can't even think about eating for 1 second, that can be because of those levels of serotonin. So interestingly, this is what I usually focus on with my clients who have anxiety or depression, is actually going and doing a lot of gut work. So of course, there's herbs and nutrients we can use to manage anxiety and to help you, increase your mood to feel a bit better in terms of if you're going through depression. But it's quite funny when, well, it's not funny, but it's interesting to see the reaction when someone comes in, asking for help with their anxiety, and I'm asking them to send off a poo sample in the mail. So it's like, what? So that's when more of that education is coming in, where I can teach them about, that link between the gut and the brain. So we'll talk more about that and why that is, because you actually have a nerve that runs all the way from your brain, all the way down through all of your vital organs. And if that is too weak, then that's really going to be affecting how your serotonin is made, because the signaling is not happening. So sometimes the gut will say, I don't know, I think we've got enough serotonin going on. There's not much bacteria in here, but it seems to be okay, because that signaling is not happening from the brain. So serotonin is super important to understand. Most of that is made in the gut. And when we're looking at things like gut issues, a lot of people find that can sometimes, the actual digestive symptoms can overpower a lot of the mood problems as well. And then when we get the digestive issues under control, then you can really notice, oh, okay, I feel like, I can actually have a bit of energy, or I can actually laugh with my friends, and I'm not freaking out when I have to go to the shops or make a phone call for an appointment, or whatever it might be that you struggle with. So essentially your gut is known as your second brain. So that's a great term to think about when you're thinking about the symptoms that you might experience and how they can manifest in your body. A lot of people, I ask, where do you feel that anxiety happening in your body? A lot of people say, I feel it in my chest, or I feel it in my tummy, or I feel it, in my temples, wherever it might be. So thinking about where those symptoms manifest in your body, and same with the digestive symptoms. So if you get digestive cramping, but where else is that actually affecting you? Do you actually get a headache along with that? Do you feel low mood when you're getting those stomach cramps? So putting those symptoms together can be really life-changing, because a lot of the time when we go to the GP for help, these types of symptoms are put in two different categories. So you take this pill for the anxiety and you take this tablet for your reflux, and none of it is put together. So part of my job as a naturopath is to put all of those puzzle pieces together and to teach you about how it's all related, because essentially not one part of your body, or not one nutrient, or not one hormone just lives by itself in the body. Everything is talking to everything. Everything's related. There's arrows going here and pathways going here. If anyone's done any hormone testing through me before, you'll know that I totally nerd out on that. And there's usually maps going everywhere, and I'm teaching you about how things get converted into what else. So yeah, it's really important to understand where all of these pathways are going. So think of your gut like the tree roots, like I said at the start. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, already did that. I keep going the wrong way. So gut symptoms. So we've spoken a little bit about this, but there's definitely some here that I haven't mentioned already. So I'd really like, with your paper and pen that you have in front of you, if you don't have it yet, if you've just joined, please go and get one. So we've written down a list of things that you think might affect your gut health that are in your life at the moment. So that could be things like specific foods that might be affecting you, stress, it can be medications, lots of other things that we spoke about. So write down the things that you think might be affecting you. There could be other things that I might not have mentioned as well. But these gut symptoms that imbalanced gut bacteria can cause. So think of it like you have your good bacteria. It's like the angel and the devil on my shoulder, right? So we have good bacteria on one side, bad bacteria. This includes parasites, yeast, bad bacteria, whatever it might be on this side. So if the bad bacteria is too high, it's like they're on a little seesaw together. So bad bacteria too high, good bacteria not able to grow. It's like that fish tank analogy I said. So if the bad bacteria is there, good stuff can't live in there. It's not their home. It's not their environment. They're not happy. They don't have a space to be able to, the pH isn't right. They don't have the food that they need. So when we're looking at the imbalance between the gut bacteria, the gut symptoms that can come along with it. So when we're looking at these symptoms, these are just some common ones that I see every day in clinic that can really be affecting people. These digestive symptoms, it can be happening every minute of the day. Some people wake up with it and go to bed with it. Waking up feeling bloated and you haven't even eaten anything, or waking up having a glass of water and then you look, 6 months pregnant. Waking up feeling nauseous, can't stomach anything, or, all of these things can happen. There's no wrong or right time about when these symptoms might happen. Sometimes they can happen right when you wake up. Sometimes they happen right after you finish eating food, right before you go to bed, as soon as you get to work. So putting these dots together can be helpful. If you're struggling with your gut health and you haven't done a daily diary of your symptoms and your food, I would really recommend you do that for about a week. So at least 3 weekdays and 1 weekend, or whatever day you have off work, to be able to see the differences between that, because sometimes these symptoms can happen from stress. Sometimes they happen from food. Most people have a totally different diet Monday to Friday than what they do Saturday, Sunday on the weekend, or whatever your weekend is if you're a shift worker. So thinking about this and how those symptoms come and go with your daily schedule is really important. So reflux, so that can include, there's lots of words for this: indigestion, heartburn, reflux. Sometimes it can happen right in between, right in your chest, basically. Sometimes it can happen higher up in that esophagus kind of area. Sometimes people notice reflux coming all the way up into their mouth. So reflux can really be related in with specific nutrient deficiencies. So things like zinc deficiency is the number one thing that I would be focusing on with reflux and bloating, really. because zinc is what helps to actually make your hydrochloric acid, and then your hydrochloric acid, which is the acid that breaks down all of your food, then helps to absorb your zinc. So if you don't have enough zinc in the first place, if you're not getting enough in your food or you're not absorbing it right through your gut, then that's going to be affecting your whole gut health. And it just goes around in this circle. So zinc is super duper important for reflux and bloating, because again, bloating usually happens when food is sitting in the gut, there's not enough acids or enzymes in there to be breaking it down, and then it starts to ferment and creates gases, and then that's when you feel bloated. So the bloating is a really, really common one. IBS, which can include anything from, cramping, bloating, irregular bowel motions, all of these types of things. Nausea, sometimes that can happen before food, after food, with stress is a really common one. Undigested food in the stools is what I meant. So corn is a usual one that doesn't really digest very well at all. But if you're seeing bits of rice or other bits of vegetables, or literally some people see meat particles, if you're seeing bits and pieces in your stool, it's not normal. So, if you're eating good food, we really want it to be digested, so that you can actually be getting the nutrients from that food. So when we're looking at that, it's more about the enzymes which are made in your pancreas. So different types of foods all have different types of enzymes that break it down. So we have the pancreatic enzymes, so things like lipase to break down your fats. We have the amylase, we have the protease, all of these different ones to break down fats, proteins, carbs, and the rest of it. So enzymes can be a great thing to help initially. I don't think that it's a cure. So it might help you feel better initially, but it's not addressing the cause. Irregular bowel motion. So it's normal to be going to the, I thought about actually explaining this, because a lot of people don't actually get told what's normal with a bowel motion, of how often that you need to be going. So it can be normal for 1 to 2, sometimes 3 bowel motions a day that should be formed like sausages on Bristol's stool chart. Shouldn't have any undigested foods. It shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't be urgent to go. It should be around about the same time most days as well. You shouldn't need coffee to be able to go either. You shouldn't need anything to be able to help you go. And you should feel completely done when you're done. So this is not, well, I see a lot of people for gut issues, so it's not very common that I would see someone doing a perfect poo straight away. But how good does it feel when you get to do a perfect poo first thing in the morning? It's so cleansing, and that's really what it should feel like. So super important, write down how often you go. What's the consistency? What's the color? Does it sink or float? Do you feel done when you're done? Is there any pain? There should be no blood, no mucus, no pain. Really important for this to happen. So in your daily diary, so include over the next week for you to do as your homework, do your foods, do your symptoms, and then also do your poo chart to see what's going on with that. So some people, I've had clients who only go to the toilet once a week, or they go 10 times a day. So it can be totally opposite ends of the spectrum. So really important to be monitoring that, because it's a really good sign to tell us what is going on with your gut health. Gut symptoms of imbalanced gut bacteria can also be food intolerances, brain fog, fatigue, poor sleep, sugar or carb cravings. So sometimes with different types of bacterial overgrowths, or specifically yeast overgrowths, if you have high levels of candida especially, those sugar and carb cravings can be quite strong. So remember that carbs essentially get converted to sugars really quickly. So if you're getting cravings for bread or baked things, or hot chips, or crisps, whatever they're called. These types of carb cravings is essentially, to me, still a sugar craving, because it's still spiking your glucose. It's still making you crash after that glucose wears off as well. So those sugar and carb cravings can be directly related with yeast, because yeast feeds off sugar. Headaches can be a big one, chronic pain. So I'll explain shortly how that is and how that inflammatory process happens with the gut health. And thrush is another big one. So thrush can be really common. It can be something that a lot of women especially deal with month to month, and just don't realize that it's actually a problem. So really important. The thrush is a massive one of a sign that the gut health is not right. Okay, this is the picture that I wanted to talk to you about. So let me just, there we go. I just wanted to move this. So we've got, this is a picture of what's going on in your large intestine. So all of these little square bits are all of your gut cells. So we've got them all lined up. These are called tight junctions. So see how they're nice and tight. These cells are all nice and tight together, kind of like your fingers when you put them together. You want them to be nice and tight. When they are inflamed, that's when they become like this side. So essentially we've got all of these gut cells here lined up nicely, and then these little finger bits up the top are called your villi. And so your villi is what actually goes out and grabs all of the nutrients from the food, because up here where it says toxins, microorganisms, gluten, this is essentially anything that's coming into the gut. So anything coming into the gut, including food. So you need to be absorbing your nutrients through these gut cells and then into here, which is your bloodstream. So see, these little donut things are your red blood cells. So red blood cells help to transport a lot of your nutrients around the body. And then we're pretending that these little white things are your white blood cells. So your white blood cells is what helps to regulate your immune system. So this is why it's so important that we have the healthy side of the gut, which is this left-hand side, nice along the whole gut lining. So in amongst these little villi bits, the little hairy bits like that, this is where all of your bacteria live. So good bacteria, bad bacteria all live in here. And so what they do, good bacteria find their little home in there, in amongst the villi, and then the bad bacteria as well find their little home when they do get in there, see toxins going in. And then what they can do is they can form these little biofilm layers. So biofilm, if you haven't heard of this before, is like a protective shield around the bacteria or parasite or yeast, whatever it is, they can all form it. So it's like a little protective shield. It sounds super creepy and scary, but essentially what that does is that it stops any types of medication in terms of antibiotics, even herbs. It stops the herbs from working to kill it off. So it's like their little protective shield. So when we're doing gut work, it's really important that we work on reducing and breaking down that biofilm, so that we can actually get in there to kill off that bad bacteria, parasites, yeast, whatever it might be, to be able to heal the gut. So in amongst there, we've got good stuff, we've got bad stuff, but of course, when the bad stuff becomes overgrown, it starts to create that inflammation in those villi. So what can happen then is that things become leaky and inflamed, and then that's when those particular types of cells can become letting things through that shouldn't be let through. So when they become leaky and inflamed, that's when, see these little guys, these brown ones, we don't want them. We don't want them getting through into the bloodstream. So what can happen there is that your white blood cells all have to say, oh my gosh, there's so much going on here, so many infections, so many toxins coming in. We need to come here and fight this off. But then, of course, there's going to be bits of food coming through as well, because this is microscopic bits of food coming in, being let into places that it shouldn't be let into. And so then the white blood cells start to say, hold on, is this thing a problem too? Is this food a problem? What about this one? What about this one? And so then that's when your immune system is putting up those little red flags to say, I think this is an issue. And it's putting up red flags against lots of different foods. So that is what can cause different types of food intolerances. And that's what these down the bottom where it says IgG, IgA, response reaction. So this is what can cause these types of food intolerances in the body. So there's these two different types of food intolerances in the body, and that's what these white blood cells will be trying to put their red flags up to say, hey, I think this is a problem. So that's essentially how food intolerances can be formed. So a lot of people ask, can I heal my food intolerances? And 100% you can. So when we're looking at healing the gut, we really need to look at reducing any of these toxins incoming, looking at rebalancing that gut bacteria, so getting more of those good bacteria in, and then healing the gut. So specifically using things like zinc and glutamine, lots of different types of nutrients that we can use to actually heal the gut here. And of course, using food as medicine to be able to address that as well. So if you have questions about that, flick them into the chat box, because I know that looks a little bit complex, but it's just really important for you to understand the actual ins and outs of the gut and how that can actually affect food intolerances and your immune system, because this is also where autoimmune conditions start too. So this is called leaky gut, when these little gaps start to form in the gut, or increased intestinal permeability is the fancy scientific word for it. So leaky gut or intestinal permeability is when things can pass through those gut cells that shouldn't be passed through, and creating an immune response. So that can cause autoimmune conditions, it can cause food intolerances, it can cause systemic inflammation, which can cause that pain, headaches. It can lead to things like arthritis. It can lead to, fibromyalgia, all of these types of chronic pain situations, because your body is constantly having to fight off and say, is this a problem now? Is this a problem now? And that inflammation happens in the gut. So you don't always feel that in your gut symptoms. Sometimes people can have the whole, inflammatory pain issues, but not have any gut issues, gut symptoms. But all of this can be going on at the same time. So super important to understand this. It's also where nutrient malabsorption happens, because the gut cells are not able to actually absorb those nutrients as well as they should be. So because it becomes all leaky and inflamed over here, there's not enough time, energy, everything's confused because of this immune reaction, that sometimes it can be hard to absorb specific nutrients, like people who have trouble absorbing iron. So iron can be one of the most hard to absorb nutrients in the body. So if that's happening, it's going to be really hard, no matter how much iron-rich foods or supplements that you take. I've seen people who, have iron infusions and have iron supplements every day, but they still can't seem to absorb it. And usually that's to do with the gut health. So another one, usually when people come to see me for low iron, of course, we'll be checking if there's any, heavy periods or bleeding happening in the gut, anything like that. But, if there's something going on with the gut health, that's usually a pretty big sign. So let's move on from that. If you have questions about that, let me know. Test, don't guess. So functional gut testing is the best way to see what's going on in your gut. So if you haven't done a stool test before, I highly recommend it. I think that everyone should do a stool test to see what's happening in their body, because it's essentially the best way to see what's going on with all of this. So good bacteria, bad bacteria, yeast, parasites, digestion of your macronutrients, liver function, nutrient absorption. Is leaky gut happening? What's your immune system like? What's the inflammation levels doing? And another interesting one is that your gut actually removes estrogen from the body. So estrogen is metabolized through the liver and the gut. So if you don't have enough, gut function to be removing the estrogen, or if there's too much stuff backlogged, or if the leaky gut's going on, then it can really affect your estrogen levels in your body. And high estrogen can cause things like migraines, bloating, heavy periods, clots in the blood. For men, it can cause low testosterone, it can cause low energy, all of these types of symptoms. So super important, and just another tick to show how much your gut health really affects your overall health. And it's definitely something that I work on with anyone going through hormonal problems as well, is to always be supporting the gut. So if you want to do a gut test, let me know and I can organize it for you. The difference between if you've done a stool test through the GP, that only tests for the top 5 bacteria and top 5 parasites. So it's very, very minimal in terms of what it's actually looking at. So the tests that I do are ones that you'll do at home. So I send you the test kit in the mail. You do the test. You can do this anywhere in the world. There's different labs that I work with in different countries. So if you want to do that, just let me know. I'd highly recommend it. Different stool tests range in prices as well, depending on what level that you want to do. So usually I'll ask you some questions and then we'll be able to figure out exactly what you need to do. So let me know if you have questions about the stool testing. And we're just going to move on to talking about adrenals and how this can really be affecting your stools and your gut. I just wanted to see if I can, that's fine. Okay, so functions of adrenals, cortisol, and stress in the body. So when we're looking at this, we are looking at all of the different roles that your body has to play. So first we have fight or flight response. Most people have heard of that before. And then we have rest and digest. So when we're looking at these 2 different functions in the body, we need to look at it and we need to make sure that they're balanced. So if we look back to, say, Paleolithic times, when we are living in caves and going and searching for our food every day. Essentially, we are mostly in rest and digest, and maybe once a year when we're getting chased by the tiger or the other tribe is coming and taking over our cave, whatever it might be, then we go into that fight or flight response. So it's very, very rare. And just remember that from Paleolithic times to now, it has been a huge change in our lifestyles and environment in this tiny, short amount of time compared to our whole, existence as human beings. So we haven't been able to adapt very well to this new style of living, which is, having 1,000 emails come in a day, running around after the kids, taking, this person here, working full time at the same time as studying and doing all of this. So we're in fight or flight response a lot more than we should be. I think most people probably on this webinar would agree with that. So think about it. If you are in fight or flight response, if you feel that in your body, at least once a month. So this is another thing, start ticking off on your piece of paper. Are you in fight or flight response once a month? Are you in fight or flight response every week? Are you in fight or flight response every day? Or do you feel it even multiple times in the day? So there's definitely times in my life where I've been feeling it multiple times of the day. It still happens. You know, it's actually what our environment and our fast-paced, environment is creating for us. So it's really important to understand what actually happens when we're in fight or flight response so you can actually notice it better in your body. So increased heart rate, the blood shunts to the muscles, which means it's the opposite to what it should be happening. So we want fresh blood to be going to the organs, to be nourishing, absorbing all those nutrients and helping your digestion. But when it's going to the muscles, that means that all of those nutrients is not going towards the gut. We're made to make fast decisions, which is why when we're in fight or flight response all the time and you feel stressed often, it's easy to forget things. So people can't remember where they put their keys, or I can't remember that person's name and they just told me twice when they introduced themselves, because it's not life or death situation information. So when we're making fast decisions, it's like, cool, I need to remember how to get from A to B right now, or I need to remember to, pick that child up from school, because that is fast decisions and important. But the rest of it doesn't really matter. It's not going to help me with survival. So these things are survival instincts. Poor memory concentration. So that can be a really common one I hear in clinic, is people who have brain fog, lack of concentration, poor memory recall as well. Decreased digestive function. So that would more so be slow bowels, so constipation, bloating, reflux, these types of things where there's low stomach acid happening. Sugar cravings, because we just want that sugar so we can run and we can do all of the things. So when those sugar cravings are happening, you can be getting sweet cravings. Like I said before, you can still be getting carb cravings because it's kind of the same thing. Low libido happens because we're not in the right mode for baby making. So our bodies are very, very clever, and they know when it is not the right time to be reproducing. And when you're working 5 jobs and studying and, managing a business, whatever things that you do, it's just not going to happen. So a lot of the time when I'm working with fertility clients as well, we really need to work on reducing that stress load, is generally a great way. So a lot of the time people tell me, yeah, I went on a holiday and then I just got pregnant, because you're relaxed and your body's actually ready for that. So that's another thing to think about is, okay, is my body actually in the right state to be absorbing these nutrients, or to be, having good hormonal health? So of course, the opposite of that is rest and digest. When our heart rate is lowered, our blood's going towards the organs and getting all those nutrients absorbed. Memory is activated. We have good concentration, good memory recall, increased digestive function. So everything's working nicely. Our sleep quality is great. We have good libido and we feel relaxed. How good would that be? So if you tick some of these off, that's really awesome. But I'd love to know what ones are going on for you over here, and how often. Do a little ratio. Sometimes people feel like they're in fight or flight literally 90% of the time. And then the 6 hours that they sleep at nighttime, you're assuming you're here, but you're probably not even there for the whole 6 hours, because you're probably waking up feeling like, need to check my emails as soon as I roll over, waking up with, nightmares, or waking up to go to the toilet 3 times a night. So thinking about how much this is balanced for you or imbalanced. So are you running from the tiger? So symptoms to look out to tell if your adrenals are under pressure. So fatigue, feeling easily exhausted, never waking refreshed, anxiety or feelings of overwhelm, blood pressure problems, weight gain or weight loss can also be the same in terms of your adrenals. Gut issues, like all of these things we've spoken about before, those sugar cravings. So if you tick off 4 or more of these, I would say it's a good indicator that your adrenals and your gut need some loving. Hair loss is another big one. That's usually related to stress. So remember, your body is always trying to protect you and keep you safe. So symptoms are your body's way of calling out for help. So don't ignore it. It's better to address these things as they come up rather than when there's 10 things in the bucket, right? It's easier to deal with them as they come in. So remember, your body is always trying to protect you. So a lot of people who experience inflammation in their body or pain, remember that inflammation is actually protective. High cholesterol is actually protective to your body. Cholesterol is protective. It's saying, hey, there's inflammation somewhere. I'm trying to protect you. And so many times we just go and take a painkiller, go on cholesterol meds, and just get rid of that. And what I find is that just makes things spiral out of control. So really important. All right, this is a picture of your adrenals and your circadian rhythm. So what should happen in the morning is that your cortisol, so that's the red line, your cortisol should be highest in the morning, and then it should drop down nicely at nighttime. And your melatonin should do the opposite. It should be low during the day, and then it should be highest during the evening. So this is when melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, helps with your physical repair and your psychological repair. So it's literally when you're sleeping, it's like your body is doing the filing system of everything in your brain, but also doing all of the cleaning. So another analogy that I like is that the cleaners don't come into the office when everyone is still there. So the cleaners come in once everyone's gone home. Bit different now with everyone working on Zoom. But anyway, you get the picture. So really, to do all of the gut work, that is why we need to be having quality sleep. So every hour before midnight is equal to double that time. So if you're going to bed at 10 compared to someone who goes to bed at 1 a.m., even if you get the same amount of hours, going to bed before midnight is better for this circadian rhythm and better for your repair. So definitely trying to get to bed by 9:30, 10. If you're getting up, trying to get 8 hours, really, really important. And when we're looking at that cortisol level, so your cortisol should be highest in the morning. If someone is waking up feeling really stressed out or feeling really tired, it could be that your cortisol is not peaking at the right time. So if you feel like you need coffee to be able to get your energy in the morning, that could be a bit of a problem in terms of what's going on with your adrenals and how that is all firing. So coffee helps to keep the cortisol in your body for longer. It doesn't exactly give you more cortisol. It just helps you to keep it there longer. So if your adrenals are really burnt out, that's usually when people can have coffee at whatever time of the day and it doesn't really affect them. So if that's you, we definitely need to do some adrenal testing. So I usually do adrenal testing at 4 different times of the day and doing it through saliva testing. So that's something that I do quite often with patients because it's really a great way for you to get a good indication of what's actually going on with your adrenal health. So really important to look at your circadian rhythm. The most easiest and cheapest way to reset your circadian rhythm is to watch the sunrise in the morning and to watch the sunset. So getting the sun on your face, getting the light in your eyes first thing in the morning when you wake up is the best way to start this cortisol peak. To say, hello, I'm awake and it's daytime. We need to have this hormone now, please. And then that's what will start to give you some energy. So even if it's too high, it's going to put it back into the right range. So that's honestly the easiest and cheapest way to start working on your adrenal glands is to work around the sun. So getting the sun on your face first thing in the morning, not through the window. You actually need to get it outside. So you need to be outside. And then the evening, so getting that sunset and the red light. You know how the light's kind of different with sunrise and sunset. So that's really the best way to be managing your circadian rhythm. And this is really important for people who are on night shift or do shift work. Oops, keep doing that. So stress and nutrient depletion. So when you're stressed, your body is chewing up nutrients. So under stress, more magnesium is needed. Stress hormones increase, lower levels of magnesium, which means that your resistance to stress is reduced. So then your stress hormones increase more. And then you use up more magnesium, then you get more stressed, then you have less resilience, then your stress increases more. So it's like this endless cycle that you can go around. Magnesium is the main one that your body will chew up in stress, but also B vitamins, specifically things like B6 as well. And then, of course, iron and B12. So super important to be eating enough nutrient-dense food, but also making sure that it's getting absorbed. So now what can we do to actually be healing the gut and helping the body to actually get that gut health back on track? So first things first is also understanding where we actually get our gut bacteria from. So you get a lot of your good bacteria literally when you're born, through the birth canal and through breastfeeding and through skin-to-skin contact with your birth mother. So actually getting outside and getting dirty has lots of research behind it to show that this helps to get the microbiome and get the microbiome increase, but get the good bacteria on our skin. Swimming in natural bodies of water can also help because there's lots of good bacteria in there as well. So this can all be done together. Get outside, get your grounding on, get that sun on your face first thing in the morning, and get some dirt on your hands as well. Super amazing. Meditation. So when we're looking at meditation for gut health, remember that meditation helps to manage your cortisol levels. It increases melatonin, and it's actually clinically shown to be just as effective as antidepressant medications, but without side effects. So it's just the fact that you actually have to do the meditation for it to work. I think most people know that the meditation is helpful, and yeah, I know it's something I should be doing. The amount of patients that have said that to me, I know that I should do meditation. Literally, it's just a habit, forming that habit. So download an app like any of these. I'm sure that there's other ones. These are just ones that I like. Put a alarm on your phone, put a reminder, do a challenge. All these apps do 30-day challenges, these types of things. It honestly is a huge, huge game changer. And it's just such good self-care, and it's so good for your gut and your mind. Oops, just keep doing that. So you should sit in meditation for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should sit in meditation for an hour. So take a picture of that, put it on your phone screen to remind you. Even just 5-10 minutes a day is going to make a huge difference to your life. All right, let's talk about foods. So fiber, we really want to get some of those fermentable, inulin resistant starches to be feeding your gut and working as a prebiotic. So you have prebiotics and you have probiotics. Probiotics are the bacteria. Prebiotics is the food that the bacteria like to eat. So foods that are high in prebiotics: asparagus, beetroot, blueberries, garlic, artichokes, leeks, onions, fennel, lentils and chickpeas. Just make sure that you prepare them right. Cooked and cooled rice and sweet potato. So essentially like fancy leftovers. If you cook it and then put it in the fridge overnight, and then you can reheat it at a low temp, it helps to create the resistant starch. So literally the cooking and the cooling process changes the molecular structure of these particular foods and helps to be feeding your gut like a prebiotic. So it's super easy. For rice, I just use white basmati rice and it works amazing. Same with cooked and cooled apples. So like stewed apples, and I just eat them cold. Probably now if it's coming into winter, I would be, you can heat them back up, but it creates the beautiful pectin in the stewed apples. So that's why it can work really nicely, is like the old whitetail of the stewed apples can help to soothe your tummy, is that it literally does. It has the pectin in it, and it actually does work to soothe the tummy. Other things we can do for our gut health is getting our bloods done annually. So this is just a list of some blood tests that I'd recommend for everyone to be getting done, because gut imbalances and stress can chew up a lot of essential nutrients. So when we're looking at full blood count, liver function test, thyroid panel, iron, B12, vitamin D, all of these are super important for your gut health, for healing the gut, but also important to tell us how is your gut actually functioning to absorb these nutrients in the first place. Oops. Herbs we can use. So you can get all of these in a tea form. This one I'm having tonight is the licorice root. So you can buy them in the organic tea bags. I'd always recommend organic for tea, because herbs are super sprayed with pesticides, because obviously they are delicate little herbs that bugs like a lot. So always think about that when you're buying food as well. Any type of organic that you can buy is best. So marshmallow root, licorice root. It's not licorice like the lollies. It's actually nice and sweet, helps to manage your blood sugars. I like to have it after dinner because it's kind of sweet and it gives you that taste of something nice afterwards. Holy basil or tulsi is beautiful. Calendula, chamomile are all nice and soothing for the gut. So demulcent means that it's soothing for the gut. Sometimes they can also the marshmallow root creates like a nice lining, soothing down the gut. Other foods we can use, so eat more fats and proteins. So it's providing short chain fatty acids and cell repair for the gut. So literally if you have that leaky gut happening, these types of fats, short chain fatty acids, will be helping to heal the gut and help to repair that leaky gut. Stimulate your digestion with apple cider vinegar and eating mindfully. So just a little shot of apple cider vinegar in a tiny bit of water before you have your meals can be nice to stimulate the hydrochloric acid in your gut and to get your body ready. Also, eating mindfully, smelling your food, actually paying attention to your food, rather than like, how many times have you finished your meal and you're like, what? Where did that go? Did I just finish that? I do it if I'm working and I'm snacking. It's the number one thing. It's just a game changer. If you can start to eat mindfully, actually smell, actually look at your food, it can just be so good to be helping with your digestion, because you're actually paying attention to what you're eating. Mindfulness, showing that you're grateful for your food. It's just so important. Less sugar and alcohol. So the sugar and alcohol is something that takes priority with your liver. So your liver is going to say, yep, you're number one, you're number two, you front of the line. Everything else goes to the back. Estrogen goes to the back, so hormone imbalances happen. Fats go to the back, so sometimes that can cause problems there too, low energy, things like that. So when we reduce the sugar and the alcohol, it's going to free up a lot of time for the liver and really be able to help to process that detoxification better. Fill up on the good stuff. So lots of fruits and vegetables. I mainly recommend using cooked food, so less raw food, because it's much more gentle on the gut. It keeps it kind of takes a step out of the process of actually digesting your food. So fill up on the good stuff, less room for these types of things that can sometimes be causing issues with the liver. Food as medicine. So these are more some things that you can start to put in smoothies or in some of your cooking. Collagen or gelatin, psyllium husk, slippery elm, all of these are weird words if you haven't heard of them before. You can get them from health food stores. They don't taste amazing, but they work like a treat. So they just dissolve in warm water. And then you can just drink them down. They start to soothe and heal the gut. Herbs that work really nicely, turmeric, garlic, ginger, pepper are all really beautiful for that anti-inflammatory effect on the gut. And then we've got the vagus nerve stimulation. So this is what I wanted to talk about when I was explaining about in between the small and the large bowel. So in between the small and the large bowel is the ileocecal valve, and sometimes that can become stuck or can be too weak. So then that can cause imbalance between the bacteria going into the small and large bowel. So these are different points that you can use to be able to stimulate the vagus nerve, which helps to release that ileocecal valve. So abdominal massaging, so you can start at the sternum and then you move down towards the left-hand side and then around towards the right. And you can get in deeper when you get towards that right middle quadrant. These types of things like humming, gargling, singing, chanting, sounds weird, but it literally starts to stimulate the vagus nerve going through. And then, of course, meditation and then chiropractic adjustments are stimulating vagus nerve all the way from the top of your neck all the way down to your pelvis. Super important. So remember, your gut health is like the roots of the trees, and your body really does deserve the best. So I'd love for you to start writing down some of those points that I've recommended, like the symptoms that happen with you, things that you think trigger it, and then the investigations that you've taken so far and things that you've kind of got from tonight's workshop that you think might be interesting to look into. So I'd love to hear from you for that. And what's next? So if you do need more help, I would love to offer you a free 15-minute discovery call just on Zoom like this, and we can chat over your symptoms, see what's going on for you, see what you've done previously, and I can let you know what I think you should do moving forward and whether I think that we're the right fit as well. So I'll always be completely honest with clients if I don't think that I can help them, or if I think there's someone in a different field. But I'd love to help you. If you even just want to chat just to see if there's anything I can do for you, then please let me know. I'll send you all an email with the recording as well after. So I'd love to hear from you. And so maybe we'll do some questions now, if there's some, which there is. So yes, definitely feeling those fight or flight symptoms. Cool. Would love to hear your opinions on colonics for gut health. So yeah, definitely. Colonics can be helpful for some people. Colonics enemas can be helpful for some people. I have done a lot of training and research into lots of Ayurvedic medicine, if anyone here is interested in that. And in Ayurveda, they actually use a lot of enema therapy in treatment. And interestingly is that in Ayurveda, enemas, which is inserting different types of things. They can use medicated oils, they can use ghee, they can use coffee, so many different things for enemas, but it's actually used a lot for nervous system. So using enemas in Ayurvedic medicine is used a lot for sleep problems, is used a lot for anxiety, depression, these types of things, rather than specific gut symptoms. So I think there's a lot to say between that gut-brain connection and how a lot of these ancient types of healing medicines and lots of different, actually looking at traditional Chinese medicine uses a lot of points like that as well to be able to help with the gut health too. So, and sorry, with the nervous system. So definitely, I think it can be useful. I think that it's very individual. Usually I like to talk to the client about their symptoms before I would recommend how often to do clinics or enemas, and yeah, how much that we need to be doing that and what types of enemas as well. Yeah, sure. Someone just wrote, could you please show last slide again? No worries. Give me a sec. Um, and then someone else also wrote, how do we test? So can definitely, there you are, can definitely help you with that. So with the stool testing, I do that through a functional pathology lab. So what I would do is get your postal address and I just send you the test kit in the mail straight from the lab. It sends it to you in the mail. There's little tubes that you just have to fill up with your sample. And then in there is the little post bag. Sounds hilarious. You literally just send your poo off in the post. The postie doesn't know, no one else knows what's in the post bag that you're putting in the, yeah, you can just put on the side of the road and the post box, hilarious. So yes, I can send that to you. It would be great to do a consult or even just a free little 15-minute chat with you, just so I can see exactly what type of stool testing that you need as well. But feel free to just email me here, email me or however you want to contact me. Yeah, find me on any of those places. I've also got a lot of blogs and articles on my website if you're interested in learning more or reading more. So I'd love for you to check that out if you'd like to read anything else. And yeah, so if you'd like to do the stool testing or if you'd just like to have a chat about what's going on with your symptoms, please let me know, because I would love to help, and we can go from there. So skin conditions like eczema and acne related to the gut, yes, definitely. There's direct links with the gut and the skin specifically. So when we're looking at that, we really need to be looking at what's going on with your nutrient levels, what's going on with that inflammation in the gut as well, and how we can actually target that. So usually there will be some kind of bacteria imbalance going on with the gut health, or with the skin. So sometimes there can actually be bacterial imbalances happening on the skin, whether it's the acne going on or the eczema. Lots of people get it in between there, those soft crease areas on the backs of the knees and everything. So definitely big link with the eczema, acne and gut. Your skin is like a sign of your health as well. So if there's dry, flaky skin, if you're getting breakouts, if you find that your skin takes a long time to heal, if you get bruising, if you have hair loss or hair growth in areas that's not normal, that can also be a sign too. So really looking at the overall health, and definitely, I'm sure, most people who have eczema or acne usually have tried every type of skin cream or things under the sun. So we really need to look at what's going on with that relation with the gut health, because yeah, the skin is also an organ, remember? So your skin is your largest organ, so it's also a detoxification pathway. So if there's things going on in the gut and there's things going on with the liver, then sometimes those toxins can be coming out on the skin as well. Sometimes people notice that when they've eaten particular foods, that can really flare up the skin. So thinking about that is important too. What would our first consult typically involve? Very interested in naturopathy after tonight's workshop. So first consult, so usually if we're just doing our 15-minute discovery session, it would be making sure that we're the right fit. And then after that, we'd be having a longer consult, which can go between 45 minutes to an hour, where we literally go super in detail of lots of different systems in your body. So kind of like how I said at the start that someone could be coming in, you know, with anxiety to see me, and then they walk out going to do a stool test. So it might not be really obvious to you what could be going on in the body. You know, you do know your body quite well usually. So when we are looking at figuring out what's going on inside, it's a really great idea to do some testing to be able to see what's actually happening. It's more cost effective and more time effective rather than try this, try that, try this for a bit, and then it doesn't work, or, you know, whatever it might be. So, really important to get a really good overview of what's going on with your health so that yeah, we can just get the treatment right. But I've had lots of experience with obviously helping people with gut issues. Skin is a really big one that I focus on too. So, to the person who wrote about the eczema and acne, definitely check out my website. I've got lots of articles on there that you can read about that. And feel free, yeah, send me a message, send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, or just book in with me on my website, and I'd love to help you. But I don't want to go over time too much. I am respectful of everyone's time. So thank you so much for attending tonight. I'm very grateful that everyone's paid such good attention. And I hope that you've learned some things. I hope that you've learned one or two things tonight. Please let me know before you go what you learned, even if you'd like to write it down. And yeah, I'll be happy to send you the recording and any other notes that I feel like will benefit you. But thank you so much for attending, and I hope to meet you very soon. Have a great night.